I hope you're smiling because it's me, Rye. Welcome back to Take Care of Your Body by Rye. I'm your host, Rylan Rosano, and I'm so excited you're here to join me on this journey of becoming the best versions of ourselves. My podcast is for anyone who's interested in health, wellness, and healing, and I'm truly so excited and so proud of you for taking the steps to do something for you today. This episode is so enticing and inspiring. And I'm just truly amazed to know this beautiful soul. And I think you'll really love and resonate with this one. But before we get started, make sure you follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform to stay up to date every Wednesday and Saturday for new episodes. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram. You can find the podcast and my wellness Instagram at Take Care by RY. And for all things personal, author, and just behind the scenes of my creation, follow Rylan, Rosee. So it's RYLIN, ROSEE, to learn a little bit more about my life and what I'm up to when I'm not podcasting or writing. You can find my two books that I have published out right now on Amazon. Once Upon a Time, I Survived Myself, which is my poetic healing memoir written about my life from my heart for your heart to inspire you and get you out of whatever you're going through, because it truly is written for anyone who's been through anything hard. And my second book is my Take Care Not Yet Healed or Ready workbook, which is a simpler but guided journal for anyone who wants to heal in a less heavy way. It's perfect for Christmas, so maybe add it on your wish list. And I'm so excited to announce my next book, Everything Was Here But You, will be coming out in February 2026. This one touches on grief, heartbreak, and those weird questions we all have as humans, but we don't really get answers to. I get the answers. I have them for you, and I'm going to share. And it also is that weird feeling of emptiness when we have a really full and beautiful life, but it still feels like something or someone is missing. Hey everyone, today I'm honored to welcome a very special guest. Hi, John. How are you today?
Rylan, it's a joy to be on your show.
I mean, we're both freezing in different ways. I mean, you a little bit more colder than me, but we're here and that's all that matters.
You know what's funny is you're colder than I am, but I'm about 30 degrees colder temperature wise. So I feel great. I have a pair of flip-flops on actually right now. I'm up in St. Louis, Missouri. It is maybe 15 outside and snowy, but it's beautiful. So I'm excited for the weather. I'm excited for this time with you.
Me too. I mean, any day alive is a good day, right? No matter the weather, no matter what's going on, there's always something beautiful to notice and reflect on.
Well, I think as we go through this story, that's what people will recognize in this story, and hopefully more importantly in their story.
Well, I'm excited. Do you want to kind of introduce yourself? I mean, I had the pleasure of watching the film inspired by your life, but maybe some of the listeners haven't yet, but you guys totally should. If you don't, me and John are going to come and make you because it's so motivating. Please introduce yourself, John.
Yeah. So, if you asked me that, I would say, first of all, my dad of four kids. I'm married. We've been married 21 years. I'm a son. I'm a Christian believer. I have the honor of, man, working as a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker these days, which is shocking because I'm an introvert. I'm awkward with my words sometimes. I say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Like everything doesn't seem to stack toward speaking. And then maybe most traumatically and surprisingly, I was burned as a child on 100% of my body, should have died, did survive, and then spent 2 decades afterwards doing my very best to make the scars disappear. Like to never talk about it, never show it, never pretend like it happened. So the idea of this coming to light and the scars being celebrated, ultimately to a point where a film was made called Soul on Fire, it just blows my mind. It's just amazing what this life has become. And you'll hear me sometimes use the word we or our and not the word I and me as much because I really do feel like it's our story and it's our journey and it's this miracle that we have received.
It's a really beautiful story. And I like that when you watch the film and you kind of do your research about you, you almost see, your own story mirrored in. You're like, if John went through this, what is my event that I overcame and I went through and that I'm still maybe fighting with some days, but I'm not letting
Totally.
it define me. And I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, so right behind me is the film poster. And if you look at it, the first one they did at Sony was a picture of the guy who plays me. His name is Joel Courtney. Joel's awesome, but they had a big picture of him on the front of it looking up, kind of like a hero shot. So I strongly suggested that they redo the poster. And now when you look at it, they turned him around. You see his backside. Perfect. I always tell Joel that's his best angle. So you see his backside. You don't see his face. His arms are in the air celebrating something. But then all around him are these little mosaic tiles of all the individuals from the film who were part of his little miracle. When he was a little boy, got burned, the people who showed up, when he recovered, when he went off to college, when he met his future wife, the kids afterwards, Jack Buck, the radio announcer, all these people, these fingerprints are what is ultimately celebrated in this film. And the reason why that matters to me, to your point, is because if we make Joel the hero or make John O'Leary the hero, it's very difficult for you, Rylan, to connect with a burn survivor, I think.
Right.
If we make this the hero about all the people who showed up and what they went through and what they did and the words they spoke and the love they gave, we can recognize, man, our role is somewhere in there. And in spite of the walls we build and the scars we have, we can become a hero, not only in our life, but in the lives of others. So this is like a big old love letter for people to stand up, embrace their gifts, and move forward in their lives.
That is so beautiful. I'm about to tear up. That is so like probably your kids are probably like, wow, my dad did that. He lived that. And I'm like,
Well, let
I
me cut you off. My kids are underwhelmed by dad. He's not good at barbecuing. He's a terrible swimmer. I'm a bad skier. Like everything a kid would actually care about, dad does a lousy job of.
well,
I think one day, though, probably when they're eulogizing dad, that's when they'll recognize, oh my gosh, I never knew. I never knew. And that's okay. I don't need the hugs and the praise from kids.
right.
You know what? I want to love them where they are, as they are. That's important. Regardless of their gifts, I want to help them find success for them and not have them look up to their dad.
And that's you're doing an amazing job. I mean, I look up to you and I just watched your film and did some research on you. So I hope you know that. You're an
Well, I
inspiration.
appreciate that.
Of course. So before we kind of dive into your story, I want to ask you, is the movie completely accurate as to how everything went down?
Yeah, so the movie again, it's called Soul on Fire. It's on all the streaming services right now. It was filmed on location where it happened. So I promise you I'll answer your question, but I'm gonna go the long way around the park.
How would you think?
So the house fire was shot in my mom and dad's actual house. When John comes home from the hospital, that's shot in John's actual front yard. When John and dad had that conversation where my dad challenges me to knock down the wall, that screened in porch where they had that beautiful conversation. We probably wept while you watched it. It's a beautiful scene, I think. That's my mom and dad's screen porch. The place where I met Beth, that's at St. Louis University, where she and I actually did meet. The clock tower where we danced in front of to Neil Diamond. Well, that's where it happened. The church where we got married, that's our church, man. It's called the Shrine of St. Joseph. And so what you're hearing slowly is the scenes were shot where they happened. The girl who wore the girl who married John in the movie, her name's Macy McLean. She is awesome. Macy wore my wife's actual wedding dress.
Wow.
The people in the church were the people who were in the church 21 years earlier. So we wanted to get the details right so that later on, when I'm on a podcast or being interviewed, people could say, like, my gosh, it is a true story. It's a true story. One of my favorite critiques of the film that came out of Portland. Most of the comments on the movie are very positive, but I'm enamored by the ones that are negative. So this is 1 out of 5 stars from this reviewer, and he said, "What a bunch of bull." What a great way to begin a review. What a bunch of bull. And he goes through all the things that could have never happened. That Jack Buck, the radio announcer, would have never visited the kid, that he would not have survived a fire to 100% of his body. And then he goes on to say, and most shockingly, there's no way the O'Reilly family their home could have been rebuilt so quickly. So not only did he get my last name wrong, it's not O'Reilly, it's O'Leary. But secondly, the home was rebuilt in 5 months. So sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. I think people look at these details of like rebuilding a home as, wow, that's impossible. And they miss the fact that this freaking kid was burned on 100% of his body and lived.
Right.
That his little sister goes into a burning house for water to throw it on his face. That the doctors did what they did. That a janitor worked overtime to keep my room clean. that a beautiful brunette falls in love with a broken, scarred up kid with no fingers later on in life. Like those are miracles
Right. Like
and
I was
soulful.
watching like what? Like this is beautiful and that's what he got from it? Like let's
It's
all
remarkable because you know why, Rylan? What you seek, you find,
it's true.
and you seek beauty, and you wipe tears while you do so, and you're moved. And if you seek instead cynicism and anger and reason to hate, well, you'll find cynicism and anger and reason to hate and judge. And so I think it's really important in life to be intentional on where your eyes are trained. You were trained to see the beauty, I think. You saw it. And then as the movie ends, you see the pictures that overlap. You see the nurse come back into John's actual life. You see him at the baseball stadium. You see his beautiful wife and kids. Like it's a true story.
And it's a beautiful one. Everyone go watch it now. Like, please, your life will be changed. I think about this like once a day. So if your ears are ringing, now it's me.
No, now I know it's Riley. I knew it wasn't my kids. Now I know where it's coming from.
It's me. I'm like, and like when I like something happens, like I get a hate comment, I'm like, what would John do? He would keep going. So I'm gonna keep going.
And you know what? Kill with kindness is what I do. I there's an my dad in the movie. So you asked, is the movie true? My dad in the movie, when he sees me in the emergency room, that line he shared is true. And the line, and for the folks who don't know my story, I caused the explosion that not only burned my life down, but burned my family's home down. So into the emergency room to see this little boy who caused this comes his dad. And my father walks in, and the very first thing he said to me was, John, look at me when I'm talking to you. And then there was like this dramatic pause, and he said, John, I have never been so proud of anyone in my entire life. And today, my little buddy, I am just glad to be your dad. And then he said, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And that line, it's like a sweet line in a film, but it's a true line my dad used that day in the emergency room. And he used it many, 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 many times with John and the other five O'Leary kids. And it's a line I think we should use when hate comes in from Portland or when someone drops you a negative comment on a DM. I respond to hate with love. And light and darkness can't coexist. So the more hate I get, man, come on, shoulders back, keep stepping toward it with love and light and watch what happens. We can't live together here, man. One of us is going to cave and it's not going to be light.
Right. It's true. That is so beautiful. So I want to kind of, mention you once lived with a 1% chance to survive, as you said. How did you turn that mindset into a daily choice to thrive?
Wow. Awkwardly and slowly. So the mistake is to think like the miracle happened and John just grabbed onto life and the rest is history. What a Hollywood movie. The reality is when I came home from the hospital, 5.5 months, scarred from my neck to my toes, in a wheelchair with no fingers, the goal was not to become a movie star or to be on your podcast or to be on any speaking stage. My goal was to just disappear. So I didn't thrive in life. I faded for 20 years. Like that's a long time to just hide and hibernate. But sometimes you gotta heal. You gotta kind of quietly do the work below the surface. So that's what was going on during that period. And then as it alludes to in the film, well, two things happened. One, it's not in the film, but it did happen. I was in a church service and the pastor was talking about the gift of talents, which is like this call to multiply. And then so he comes to me in the back row and to others, maybe some of your listeners and viewers, and he said, and for those who feel like you don't have any talent, that was me at that time. I'm 28 and I'm just kind of doing nothing. He said, listen to me. Your life is a precious, priceless gift. And with that gift, you've got one job. It is to say yes to being used for good. So I didn't really know what that meant, but I wrote it down. Your life is a precious, priceless gift. And with that gift, you got one job, say yes to being used for good. And then the following day, I'm working construction. I'm not speaking. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And a Girl Scout calls me and says, Mr. John, will you speak at my school? So in the movie, it was a room mother who invited me. In real life, it was a little girl.
Oh,
In the movie, they gave me 6 Girl Scouts. In real life, there were three.
how intimidating.
But I spoke to those three girls. I said yes because the day before, a pastor, a friend, had spoken to a community and said, your life matters. Act like it. That's what he's saying here. And you ask the question, Rylan, like when did you thrive in life? What's the daily process? Man, it's the very first step along that process to recognize you are worth thriving for. That you're not here by accident. None of the things you've been through or endured or shaped you are by accident. It's all forming you for not only where you are today, but what you can become tomorrow.
No,
And
they
the sooner we can say yes to that, the sooner you can step forward and start living a life, back to your question, where you can thrive. And that's not about success. That's not about money or followers or movies. Thriving is about mindset. It's about a heart bent toward joy. So for me, it was a real awkward movement toward it. And if you want, I can tell you a little bit more about what it looks like today, but it began with the word yes.
let's hear it. I want to hear what it looks like today.
For me, I think some faith foundation is important. I'm a practicing Christian, and I think for me to be in the Word every day is very important, to be active and animated in Scripture, to understand God's will for my life. So I do that every morning. I look east and I watch the sunrise. We had a gorgeous one today. It's snowy everywhere, but the sun just cut through the darkness. It was awesome. So every morning I watch the sunrise. I make an inventory of what I've got. I try to greet challenges like you and I were talking about with love. I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. I take a walk outside. It's cold, but I barely own a jacket. I like to be cold. I like the idea of being reminded you're alive. And I think heat does that to a degree, but cold really reminds you, wow, you've got this moment, man. Move quicker, move quicker.
That's so
So
beautiful.
those are three things I do every day. I get up an hour before I need to so I can do a little bit of the pre-work before the day starts. And my day looks like getting kids up and getting breakfast on and getting the dog out and getting the bowls fed and getting the trash, like normal life. But before normal life begins, I start with prayer. I start in gratitude. I start outside and I start in love.
Love that. It's beautiful. So, what would you say is one small free shift someone can make today to kind of move fear into love, like you just said?
Yeah. I mean, anything you look at, you can look at through the lens of love or the lens of fear. And you can see the same thing. And yet, through that lens you view it, it's going to inform completely differently what you choose to view in your life. So I think the best way to grab a hold of that lens and make sure you are embracing that lens of faith and love rather than fear and hate is to ask the question every morning, why me? And I think many of us are already doing that because our lives are lousy and because it's cold and because it's hard and because things haven't gone the way we wanted and because we bear scars and because this thing happened and that thing happened and I haven't got this and look at the headlines. But when I invite you to say, why me? I ask you to be very intentional in saying, and I'm not a victim. So if you ask the question, why me as a victor, things happen for you. Your bucket begins to fill. You recognize how awesome the sunrise is. You recognize the cold wakes you up. You recognize you still have life in your lungs. You recognize you hit the cosmic lottery by simply being born. I mean, the likelihood of you, your mom and dad, I don't care if you even know either of them. Because a lot of us are saying, well, why me? You don't know my past or my parents. You're right. But thank God for them because whatever they did led to you having the miracle of life. It is we're bored by it, but my gosh, we should not be. It is shocking that we have life. It is a miracle. And so I just encourage us as if you want to grab onto a lens that is not a victim lens, but a victor's, ask the question, why me? And recognize the profound gift that is your life. It will change how you feel about yourself and what you do afterwards.
I love that. And no, I often think like there's a reason why I was chosen to be woken up today. Like I have a purpose today. And
For
maybe
sure.
that's just to make someone else's day. Maybe that's to just keep doing what I'm doing. But God saw me and said, I'm going to wake her up for another day. And I think
Right?
it's beautiful.
It's powerful. And if you know that, it also changes what you do with that day.
It
You
really
spend a little bit less time scrolling, and you spend a little bit less time looking down, and you spend a little bit less time with your fist clenched ready to fight. And you spend a little bit less time arms crossed board, and you spend a lot more time loving people, loving the moments, and experiencing life more fully.
And that's
But when Jesus says, "Let the children come to me," and I know this isn't like necessarily not everybody's a believer listening, but Jesus isn't talking about kids. He's not like, if you're under the age of 11, you may come. He's talking about a childlike heart. And kids, man, the way they wake up, yeah, they're crabby sometimes and they cry too loud and they make a lot of noise on airplanes and all this other stuff. But undoubtedly, they soak up life. Do we? Do we? And I think if you know there's a call for your life, you soak it up more fully.
I agree. What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about resilience? I mean, you're the king of resilience. Look at your life. It's beautiful, and you've not really let anything stop you. And I think Mr. Buck probably influenced you in that way. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's something I really took away from the movie. I was like, he told you like to never let anyone cut you short again.
Yeah. What a line. So
Mhm.
Mr. Buck, for the folks who don't know, he was the radio announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals for 50 years. And he learned about a little boy who got burned named John O'Leary. And the night I got burned, he came to visit me in the hospital. So it's there's stories out there in media like Babe Ruth hitting the home run for the kid in the hospital. And like there's these magical stories. Well, this is another one of them. This Hall of Fame radio announcer takes an interest in a dying child and loves him during the 5 months in hospital and just keeps coming back in spite of the prognosis of death, encourages me to move forward. We have the day at the ballpark. He learns I can't use my hands. I can't write, but he teaches me how to write thank you letters. And there's a whole story behind this.
That got me tearing up. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy's an angel.
It's like, I mean, I got a couple in this office even. Like there's there's these baseballs all around us in our life with these famous athletes who've signed the words Dear John and then a little encouragement and then their signature. And to get the next one, I had to write a thank you letter. And to get the next one, I had to write another thank you letter. And eventually, this little boy writes 60 thank you letters for 60 baseballs from a man who never told a soul he was doing it. So much of the good work we do in the world these days is posted on social media. And Jack he didn't tell his wife or kids. He just invested in people. So you asked what's the most common misconception about resilience? I think one of the things is to believe that others have it, I don't. And what we don't fully recognize about resilience is it's a painful choice. And it's digging the well more deeply each day and drawing the water from there and going back to work and grabbing your boots and putting them on and tying them tight, and then going off to work again. Jack Buck asked the question, what more can I do every night? And if you're trying to become a little bit more resilient in your walk, whether that's professionally or spiritually in a relationship, whatever it might be, you may want to nightly ask the question, what more can I do? Because everybody faces hurdles and brick walls and struggle. And then what do we do with that? And cowardice looks like we just raise the white flag. But courage and resiliency looks like, man, you figure out a way to go under it or over it or around it or through it. And maybe the way that will define how you move forward is to ask the question, what more can I do? If honestly, if you take away one thing from this podcast and you start asking the question nightly, what more can I do that I would not have done otherwise tomorrow? And you just do that one thing, watch what happens.
I will. And I'll be DMing you on Instagram and letting you know.
Please do. And I hope your friends do too. I mean, it's changed my life and it changed Jack's life and it will change yours too.
That's beautiful. And to know like we all probably have a Jack in our life. And I think everyone should go thank their Jack and just be like, thank you for being in my corner and seeing me. Because do you think
That's
you could
awesome.
be this version of yourself without him?
Oh gosh, man, I don't think I'd be this version of myself without anybody. I the great lie, like in the book, it's called On Fire. They had a picture of me on the front of it when they first printed it. So I wrote back to the guys in New York and I'm like, you guys, like this book is not about me at all. So now if you hold a copy of On Fire, like you see like red, orange, gold letters, it's called foil wrap. And if you look right into the letters On Fire, you'll see you, Rylan. So you don't see me, you see you. The goal of that then is that the reader can see themselves as the inspiration to become someone else's hero. You are not only is there a Jack in your life, a hero, you are that person for someone else. And one of the things I love most about my story, it's not like, look how high John climbed. That I think it's so boring. Like mountain climbers bore me. Trophy recipients, they kind of bore me. What I love so much about my story is I'm not here without my siblings, for sure. I'm not here without my parents. I'm not here without that janitor, Lavelle. I'm not here without Roy. I'm not here without Colleen, the nurse, and Jack Buck, the radio announcer, and Beth, the beautiful girlfriend. Like all of these people, without all their fingerprints kind of lovingly guiding me forward, and some of the ones that weren't so loving. It's not in the movie, but I got bullied in high school and college a little bit. Thank God. I don't love those days, and I struggled mightily in the midst of them, but I have a heart now for others who struggle because of my own personal struggle. So all of these fingerprints collectively have guided all of us forward and led us to this moment. And I am seriously grateful for all of them,
No, I mean, I agree. It's really beautiful how some horrible, unfortunate experience can change your life for the better.
for sure,
And I
or
love
for the
that.
worst.
Or for the
And
worst.
sometimes winning the lottery, the wins can change your life for the worse. So that like I refer to them in the work we do as inflection points. And sometimes the inflection point is a fire, and sometimes the inflection point is the lottery. And these moments in times where life is never going to be the same afterwards. But that doesn't mean better or worse. It's a moment. So what do you want to do with those moments? And those are dramatic ones. But every moment you have this side of eternity is an inflection point. Now what? It's a cool question to ask as you go through the day. Like, now what? Now what?
I'm going to
Now.
start. Now I'm going to start. Wow. I mean, who needs therapy? Just talk to John. I mean,
Right. The meter's running. The bill's coming your way, Rylan. So you
I'm
you
ready.
better cut this off.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I got you. So you mentioned bullying, and I think that's so important to talk about. I know I have some young listeners. Something I noticed when watching the movie is, you were on your bike and these kids didn't let you participate in their shenanigans. Do you think if they would have, you wouldn't have gone home and did what you did? And when I was watching, I was like, this is a story of bullying.
Yeah.
You felt left out, that you had to take matters into your own hands to be like, okay, the cool kids are doing this, I'm gonna try and see what it's all about. And then it went sideways for you. And I just was like, it's so heartbreaking that these kids, I mean, I hope they're watching the movie now and feel absolutely inspired, but also like, I should have treated him
Yeah.
better.
That's hard because I know the kids who were, those weren't random neighborhood kids. Like it's a small neighborhood. I'm from St. Louis, but it's a small part of St. Louis. And I went to a hockey game recently with one of the kids who apologized. And I said to him, man, you got to let that go. I certainly have. Like that moment, seeing you guys do that may have informed my actions, but ultimately we have free will in life. You get to decide how you navigate it, what you do, what you don't do. And I saw kids in a riverbed playing with a little bit of fire and gasoline. These are kids I looked up to. I figured if they could do it, so could I. And so whether they let me do it that day with them or not is almost pointless. Like regardless, in viewing them, I wanted to do likewise. And to me, more than bullying, like the real story there is people are watching.
They are.
Like people are the way you walk through an airport, the way you treat a barista, the way you smile or frown at the doorman, like everything is being viewed. And what will be left in your wake? And from those kids playing with fire and gasoline, what was left in their wake was an example. And I followed that to almost my demise. I mean, 100% burn, you know this. Like people don't live. So it should have been the end. And through God's grace, it was the beginning.
I'm really glad it was, because here you are today and you're inspiring so many, so many. I mean, for everyone listening, if you don't know John, you haven't heard his story. I sent your name to one of my friends and they were like, the name sounds familiar. I was like, yeah, you better look him up. He's cool. He's amazing. He's inspiring. Like you were meant for this. And I think that's so beautiful, because it's almost like you were born to do this, to speak, to inspire, to educate. And you're so good at it too. You really
You're
are.
sweet. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know if we're born. I think we become. And what has seemed like an overnight success in the way we share stories, or, I'm very busy as a speaker these days. Um,
As you should.
that was decades in the work. Like the movie shows the group of Girl Scouts. Remember the scene where John's in front of the pickup truck throwing up?
Did you actually vomit?
That's a true story. And then you like wipe the doggone vomit on your long sleeves and walk
It's
into a group of
girlfriend,
three
guys.
girls. So like that wasn't born for speaking. It's in spite of not being born for it, you say yes to it.
Mhm.
So I think it's developing the talent you have in the area where you want to be used for good, and then not making excuses on why you can't do it better.
I love that. So I'm big on body image awareness and, body dysmorphia,
Yeah.
talking a lot about those issues. Growing up with scars and the challenges you faced within your health, was it hard for you not to compare your circumstances to your average Joe next door? And, especially when you met Beth and falling in love, I mean, in the movie, we can see you're kind of insecure and you're like, well, why would you love me? How was that like for you? And how would you kind of approach, if you could go back in time, younger you, and say, look, like you are deserving of love. Everyone's deserving of love, no matter how you look, no matter what you've been through. And do you have any advice for listeners maybe struggling today with their image and their appearance?
Mm. Yes, I would begin by saying me too, even still. I mean, I'm 48 and society would say John's successful. Like he's got a business and he's invited to speak on big stages and there's a film and family and marriage, like seemingly successful. So like he's got it all. And then I look in the mirror and I see scars. And you'd have to be a fool to somehow not see that. So I am foolish frequently, but I see it and it sometimes breaks me. But also, when I see my version of that scar, I try to recognize also that the scar exists because the wounds have healed. And that's like a big line from a guy named Henry Nouwen, who's a big spiritual writer. The scars exist because the wounds have healed. And so often we view the scars as like the negative, but there's a way to view scars as the blessing. And for me, it took a long time, and I still work on it to begin seeing these things as, well, gosh, what a gift. I was talking to Beth last night. I'm like, I can't believe I'm alive. She's like, you gotta stop like talking about it. I'm like, Beth, I look at this like broke body. Like I cannot believe I survived that fire. Like it still blows me away. And if we can look into the mirror and instead of not seeing what we wish we had, but celebrating what we do have, man, that's a turning point. So for me, in the movie, it portrays me as being clearly insecure. And in reality, I was so insecure that I never looked in the mirror. So it wasn't the inability to like love my body. I just wouldn't even acknowledge it. I just wore long sleeves. I drank too much, walked around with because I'm missing my hand, missing fingers on both hands, hands in the pocket or arms crossed. You see the actor playing me a lot, trying to do that same kind of mannerism because that's who I was back then. For me, one of the sweetest scenes is when John is getting dressed to go to a party. And he tries on the shirt of his roommate, Mike, and it's short sleeves. It's a Hawaiian shirt. John looks in the mirror for a moment, like, looking pretty good, buddy.
Right.
And then he looks down and he sees the scars. And then he flashes back to when he's a kid at home. And he gets invited to go out to play in the pool. And the little girl comes in and John goes up to get a swimsuit on. And then he looks outside, get emotional just talking about it. And John sees the kids with their shorts on, sees the little girls with their swimsuits on, and rather than going outside, John goes back upstairs, redresses into pants and a turtleneck, long sleeves, and then goes back outside in the summertime with a turtleneck on and pants. I was so broken that I ignored how I looked for a long time. And so, yeah, what I'm doing today, what I wish I would have heard back then is, John, you're lovable, man. You're beautiful as you are. You should know that because the world that will judge you will always judge you, but the world that loves you will always love you. And ultimately, the way we feel about ourselves will dictate what other people see when we walk into a room. So today I just try to love myself, and I'm amazed that somehow when people get to know me, they love me too.
I mean, it's not hard. You're inspiring and amazing. And something you said is like you almost have to look into the mirror and not even like love yourself, but you have to accept yourself because when you
Yeah,
do that, then you can kind of understand why everyone around you says what they say about you. Because people can tell you you're beautiful and I love you and you're amazing, but if you don't believe it yourself, it's just empty words.
for sure.
So
I remember the O'Learys were not high class people, man. At one time, like, I don't know, maybe late in grade school or early high school, mom and I were watching a beauty pageant like Miss America, something like that. And so it ends with this girl getting the crown and the flowers, and some cheesy guy singing like, "Isn't she beautiful?" as she's walking down the catwalk. And my mom said to me, "John, if one person would say one negative thing about the way her legs looked, it would ruin her whole night." And that just stuck with me. Like here she is, crowned, flowers, some cheesy guy singing. And if one person said one thing about the way her legs looked, that's it. So I try to live a life today, Rylan, where I'm no longer defined by the perspective of one person's view on my life. I'm judged ultimately by a God who loves me. And if that is true, and I believe it is, then maybe it's my job to love myself. And if I can do that enough, maybe we can convert other people to love themselves.
I love that. That is so beautiful. So, can you kind of share a moment when your story felt heavy and not as inspiring as I or others kind of feel when we read it and watch it and view it?
So, did you get emotional at all while you're watching the movie?
John, I get emotional if the sky's the wrong color, but yes, I did.
What was the scene that like gutted you the most? What was the hardest scene for you?
Anything with you and like Mr. Buck, I would say, but when he gave you the baseball at your college graduation, that really I think like got it for me because then he like kind of passed away not far after that and I'm just like wow, and then you gave him a baseball back and I was like I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. I don't even know these people and I'm mad at them for making me cry at like 9 in the morning.
Totally. So again, you're like early on, you said, "John, is it a true story?" Totally. That happened. Jack gave me the crystal baseball he received when he went into the Hall of Fame. So I'm
Beautiful.
22. I'm college drunk. I have no idea what I'm going to do in my life. None. Never dated, never earned a real check. I have no confidence. Don't look in the mirror very frequently because I don't like what I see. Like all of that is true. So you talked about were there moments that were heavy? Well, that is heavy. And
Yeah.
then I get this ball and like, what would you do with an heirloom quality priceless gift? And I think most people who are normal would put it somewhere so light would shine and reflect on it. And people could come in out of the house and say, "Dude, what a cool thing that is." And so what does John do with it? And what I did is I put it in my sock drawer. And I did that not to protect it, but to protect me. I wanted no one to know, none of my roommates at the time, none of my friends at the time to know that I knew Jack Buck. Because if they knew that, they would probably say, "What happened? How'd you get the ball, man? Did you steal it?" And then I would have to explain our friendship and where it started, and which would force me to look in the mirror and embrace scars. And I'm not there. So I hid, like it says in the movie, man, I hid behind that wall for a decade or so, even after Jack Buck passed away, because it was too hard to embrace what stared back at me. But once you can embrace that, you use the word accept. Once you can accept that, not only are you able to more fully accept your life, you're also able to accept the goodness of others. Then you can reach back into the sock drawer and hold this crystal baseball up and say, "Hey, world, no, 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 don't look at me. Look what Jack did." And then back to your question you asked a while ago, who can you be a Jack for in your life? So this whole like transition from being so broken, so heavy with the story that you can't even celebrate someone's goodness to ultimately coming full circle. Well, not only do you accept it, you cherish it and lift it up high, not to be arrogant, but to be selfless in calling people forward to recognize they've received gifts that are intended to be given back.
Wow. And would you say like that moment inspired you to later on kind of do your own act of like goodness and kindness, like pay it forward a little bit?
For sure. I mean, it's the thing we do over here at the organization. Like, so I run a business called John O'Leary Live Inspired. And when we get requests, and we get a lot, the movie has been viewed millions of times. Like, that's a lot of people. And then it's a lot of requests. We try to say yes. And if you say yes to everything, you say no to the most important. So we've got to be mindful of that. But man, I want to be a Jack Buck for others. I'll never be a Hall of Famer. I'll never have a voice like he did. I may not get 78 years of good living like he got, but I want to be the kind of guy who shows up for others and just is loving them where they are. Jack did that. And so the question he asked is the one that our organization asks, what more can I do? And so when we hear about a kid who got burned, the question we then ask is, dude, what more can we do? When you find someone going through a struggle in their home or health, and we get that note in, what more can we do? So we try to animate generosity in our organization just to serve. And we learned that from Jack Buck.
It's beautiful. And it really shows you like kindness goes far. You never know like what someone's dealing with, what they're struggling with. But if you see them, that can almost change the course of someone's life.
And if you do that at scale, it changes society. I mean, you think Jack Buck gave to one broke down kid who now has spoken to millions of people and has a film that's been downloaded millions of times. And like that's not Jack. Jack did that. And not only did he do it for me, like I years ago, I spoke at a retirement home in 2 hours south of St. Louis for veterans. And the sweet older guy rolled up to me afterwards and he said to me, that's the second time I heard that story. And I said, oh, really? When was the first? Because the story wasn't out there yet. When was the first? And he said, Jack Buck used to come by and visit us and encourage us. I'm like, wow. So Jack went down to a retirement home for vets. I went to a prison a couple hours north of St. Louis, spoke to these guys, and one of the guys came up to afterwards and shared that Jack Buck used to come and visit them. I have a painter one time who came up to me and said, Jack Buck is the reason why I got my start as a painter. And he told me this long-winded story of how he was painting the exterior of the home. And Jack just brought him a glass of lemonade. He didn't even know whose home it was. This old man walks outside with lemonade and says, come on down, man, let's talk. They talk, and he finds out from Russell Irwin. He learns that Russell doesn't want to paint houses, he wants to paint art. So Jack Buck hires him to paint a picture of the six Hall of Famers for the St. Louis Cardinals. It is auctioned off 6 months later for a couple $100,000. And Russell Irwin shifts from painting houses to painting works of art, all because one guy, and these are just some of the stories, one guy asked the question, what more can I do in this situation? What if we could create a movement around that? Just people saying, man, today I will not read the newspaper. I will not pay attention to CNN. I'm going to delete my social media feed because it's all garbage coming to me, reminding me how bad the world is and how bad my life is within this world. And instead, I'm going to engage in the world and just love one person. If it sounds so lame, but I've seen it happen. What can happen if we collectively just step forward and ask the question, what more can I do? Because that's what Jack did.
Wow. It's crazy to me that one guy believed in you and came into your life and that changed everything. It really shows you people come into our lives for a reason.
Right.
Whew, makes me want to cry. Like,
Me too. And then there's a book I read by a guy. Oh man. It's called The Five People You Meet in Heaven.
wow.
And it might even be the three people you meet in heaven, but it's a couple people you meet in heaven. And it's a fictional work, but it's ultimately about this carnival worker who did nothing in his life. And then he dies. And then he gets to heaven and he starts meeting people that he did not even know he had influence over. And his mind is blown. This ordinary carny, nothing guy. That's how he felt about himself, who profoundly shaped five lives through his. I don't think that's what happens in heaven. I don't think it's five. I think it's countless. And I think hell is the opposite version of that. It's all the lives you could have influenced, but you were looking down and your arms were crossed and you were angry about this thing that happened and you missed this chance. So I encourage us to recognize you do not need to be a Hall of Fame radio announcer to meet those five people or a lot more in heaven. It starts with you recognizing you have royal blood coursing through your veins. Your life and your sweetness and your smile and your good gestures can be used for good. Don't wait for tomorrow.
Wow. That's the best takeaway I've gotten from this podcast, besides the fact that you're amazing and you're great at what you do and you're in the right field. But anyways, I'm just gonna like hype you up. If you ever need anything, I got you. I'll just like send you some Ryland
You've
sweetness.
done it all. My head won't fit through my door now when I get home tonight.
That's okay. That's okay. You deserve it. So I kind of want to ask you this question, and it might make you cry. You say every great life can be summed up in one sentence. Has yours changed?
Hmm. Has my sentence changed or has my life changed?
Both.
Sure. I mean, I think our life is changing every day. It's a little like a river that even if you live riverside, like every day, it's just different, man. The landscape changes, the water's different. So my life has changed profoundly since the movie, since yesterday, certainly since I got burned and every day in between. My, but if you're like, John, so what do you want to be remembered as? Let me tell you what I don't want to be remembered as. I do not want to be remembered as a motivational speaker. I do not want to be remembered as a business owner. I do not want to be remembered as an author or a guy in a movie. Um, I want to be remembered as a great husband, even when I messed up many times. I want to be remembered as a freaking awesome dad. I want to be remembered as a loyal son and a fierce brother, a generous neighbor, a kind guy, an encourager. And then if you're like, well, bring that into a sentence, dude. I did a podcast years ago in New York, and when this guy walked me out afterwards, there was this big old like cement building across the street, and I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "It's a synagogue." I'm like, "What's on the top of it?" Because it was language I couldn't read. He said, "It's Hebrew." I said, "What does it say?" And I think it was Micah. It says, "Seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with God." And if you're like, John, what do you want to be remembered as, man? The star of soul on fire? Like, John sought justice. He loved mercy. He walked humbly with God. And in doing so, he changed the world one life at a time, starting with his own.
Wow. That is just, whew, that's, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Like, once we finish this podcast, I'm gonna go sob in the corner. Like, wow. Life is beautiful. Life really is beautiful. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you kind of said that you think that every single day, but it's crazy how in a world of like, what, 7 billion people, like we're here and we're alive and we're able to speak and live and do all these things when some people aren't in the position to. I mean, at one point you weren't, and then you fought
Right,
your way out of that. It's just, it's mind blowing. It's like life is so much bigger than the struggles and the problems and the crazy stuff. I mean, we all have bad days, but
for sure.
what do we do with the bad days? How do we make the bad days better?
I think your point is right on. Like perspective matters. So if you ask, because most of us, the struggle we have is we compare ourselves to others around us today. And my encouragement is instead of comparing yourself to the Facebook friends or Instagram, look around the world and ask yourself, who would you like to switch positions with? And be real about it. You got 7 billion others to choose from. Go ahead and walk, take a nice walk around the globe, and you will come back. In your case, to Florida, I'll come back to St. Louis, and I'll be blessed and grateful for it. Secondly, another great perspective shift is, and ask yourself, in every other era of humankind, when would you like to go back to? And be honest, because as miserable as the coffee was this morning, it was a luxury that people a generation or two ago couldn't have fathomed.
Mhm.
As cold as it is right now in Florida and St. Louis, hot water and showers has only been around in the States for about 100 years, meaning your great grandparents could not have fathomed a hot shower. It did not exist. They would heat water, then dump it in a bunch of cold water and bathe in it. Dads would go first, followed by the oldest kid, and downward from there. Like, this is how we lived 100 years ago. Imagine 500 years ago, 1,000. Like, when do you want to go back to? And where do you want to go? And the reality is, you'll come back to where you are. If that's true, then live fully now. Stop the nonsense of comparing ourselves. Instead, do the only comparison that matters: who you are today with who you were yesterday and who you can become tomorrow. And then step in that direction boldly.
Love that. Wow. It's so beautiful. And, you just said something amazing because it's like oftentimes we'll compare ourselves to these movie stars, the people that you had in your film, but they have bad days too. Every single person on this planet has things that they don't like about themselves, struggles, issues. The
For
only
sure.
difference is they push that aside and they live anyways.
That's well said. And I mean, the movie stars in our film all became friends. Like, William H. Macy and John Corbett, like these are big stars, and Joel Courtney and Macy McLean, Stephanie Shows, like Devon Franklin. If you don't know these names, they're everywhere. Like these are real stars.
You're under a rock. if you
Yeah,
don't if you don't
but
know,
they
you guys are sleeping.
they were humble, they
Mhm.
were generous. They deal with life. They deal with struggles financially. They deal with struggles in their relationships. They've lost parents. They've lost children. They've had profound adversity. John Corbett, as one example, met his dad 3 times before he turned 21. So I know everybody's got their stuff, but when you meet a dad a total of 3 times, that shapes your life. When you grow up in abject poverty in West Virginia, which is what he did, this is the guy who's in Sex in the City and My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And he's married to Bo Derek. Like he's a star these days. And yet he bears a father wound. And who doesn't? So it goes back to like, yeah, we could pretend like we wish we were that star. But if you really got to know them, again, Rylan, you'd come running back to who you are. It's because you're enough.
Right. And you're enough too. So
I'm grateful for that.
it's beautiful when you realize that. It's like there's only one of me and that's my superpower.
Yeah.
My last question for you is if you could speak to the 9-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell him about what it really means to take care of himself beyond surviving?
Hmm. He was living to make the world around him like him. And he did that at 9 and 10 and 15 and 20 and finally started to shift at 28, although I still struggle with it today. I would say to him, I want you to listen to the words you keep hearing from your dad. And he would probably say, which ones? Go clean your room or, tuck your shirt in. I'm like, no, no, not those words. The words are, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And then I would say to him, now I want you to roll yourself over back then, or if he was far enough advanced after recovery, walk your way over to this mirror. And I want you to say those words and say them until you start crying and say them until you actually believe in them. And then he would probably, because he had a bad memory, he would probably say, what words? So I would have to say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And eventually he would keep barking into the mirror the words, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Enough times that he broke open, first for bad, and then with struggle, and then with fullness. So I would beg that kid to recognize that he is lovable. He's loved already by others, but his life will get good to the degree that he believes that about himself.
Wow. That is so beyond beautiful and inspiring. I mean, your title is literally what you do. John O'Leary does inspire, guys. It's not fake. I mean, Portland might say what he says, but it's true. Come here, take care by Rye says that it's true. So that's all that matters, right? How can we find you, John, if we want to connect with you? We want to read your book. We want to be inspired by you. Where are you at? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm in St. Louis right now, but online, I'm at johnolearyinspires.com. So John O'Leary, Oleary, inspires.com. And on that website, man, we have our social media and the books and where you can watch the film and everything else we're up to. So come and check it out. You'll make a new friend.
It's so good. It's all so good, guys. You have to go check it out. I mean, do you do birthday parties? Come on, like
Right. I'll
wedding.
bring the pony, the tail and the donkey, and we'll party together.
You'll have a cupcake and be like, enjoy it, guys, and be safe.
I
Thank
will.
you so much, John. This was such an honor and just such a blessing to talk to you and so much fun. I really enjoyed it. You are amazing, and I will keep thinking about you and your story and using it to move within my life.
Listen, I appreciate you, but just recognize my story is the culmination of the love of a lot of other people. And you've got that story as part of your journey. And then the invitation is to become part of someone else's epic story now. And that's when we turn our attention from the mirror to others, it gets good. So for those of us struggling with body image and struggling with brokenness and struggling with fatigue, uh, look externally, not for what you don't have, but for what you can give, and then watch what happens.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna mail you my story, so
Thank you, Rylan.
we
Look
can share,
forward to it.
and I'm gonna watch yours again because it's so good. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day and stay warm, and I will too. And just be grateful to be here.
Cheers.
Bye.